All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Excuse me. My name is Kelly Williams. We're excited to have you join us for this Dine and Dish event on the introduction to the shared network, fostering collaboration across the Texas A&M system. This session will provide an overview of the shared open digital publishing platform. Sorry, those messages are throwing me off. And its role in supporting open educational resources, or OER, across campus collaboration. Our presenters today are Syed Shiragni, the Open Publishing Platform Manager at TAMU College Station, Tim Arnold, Dean of College Libraries at Texas A&M University, Texarkana, and Sarah Northam, the Director of Research and Instruction Services at East Texas A&M University. Together, they will share insights on how different campuses are using the platform, key benefits and challenges, and ways to get involved. All right, let's get started.
All right, yeah. Thanks, Kelly, and thanks to TAMU System Virtual Libraries Conference for hosting us today. It's always great to have a space like this to connect and share ideas across our community. So since it's also Open Education Week, it's also the perfect time to talk about the Shared Network, which is a new initiative to help faculty, staff, and students across Texas A&M University system to create and share open educational resources. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So today we talk about the shared network. We talk about what it is and also why to have a shared network. And then we will focus on our campuses. And Tim and Sarah are here to share about their institutions. And I'm also here to talk about my institution. And then we'll also answer questions if there are any. So before we get started, what is the shared network? So the shared network is a collaborative space, a collaborative publishing platform that aggregates open educational resources from across the Texas A&M system into a centralized hub. It's based off of the Pressbooks platform, and it could be checked out at odp.library.tamu.edu. So as you noticed earlier, we use this platform to publish open educational resources, which by definition are teaching, learning, and research materials that are either in the public domain or licensed in a manner that provides everyone with free and perpetual permission to engage in the 5 R's of open, which are retaining, remixing, revising, reusing, and redistributing the resources. So in other words, if you have an open educational resource, you have the right to retain it, which means that you can make it your own. You can control copies of it. You could also reuse it in any number of situations, in a class, for instance, in a study group, or on a website, or in a video. You could also adapt it or revise it if the license allows it. So for instance, our presentation today, as you may know from the first slide of the slideshow, by the license we have placed on it at the bottom of the page on the left, it's a Creative Commons or CC BY. It has a CC BY license, which makes it available for everyone to take it, retain it, reuse it, revise it if they need to, if it works for them, and also remix it, which is the right to combine it with revised content, and ultimately to redistribute it. So the open publishing platform or open digital publishing platform that we're talking about today is the platform to develop open educational resources, and the OER materials, which we hope to publish through the platform, enable everyone to use the license, the open license to basically share their work with the world in however way they would choose fit for themselves. And this is a combination of the different licenses that an author could use and place on their work to make sure it is published under an open license. So, but OER is not just limited to textbooks. OER is about any number of resources that could be used with an open license. They could be textbooks, they could be course materials, learning objects, videos, lab manuals, modules, full courses, syllabi, tests, quizzes. So all of these could be developed and shared openly with the world. All right, so if you're new to the world of open, here are some resources where you can look for open educational resources. Open OER Texas, for instance, provides collections of curated resources aligned to the Texas core curriculum requirements. Pressbooks directory has a collection of more than 8,000 resources and books. And also Open Textbook Library provides more than 1,500 textbooks with robust search features and reviews. Yeah, if you haven't been looking for OER resources, we thought this could be an opportunity to take a look around and find something through any of these directories and share your findings in the chat with us at this point. Maybe take 2 to 3 minutes for everyone to take a look and see if they find something which works for them in their work, in their research, in their courses, for instance. So one of the resources is, for instance, Pressbooks. If you navigate to their website, you can find a book and you can filter your results based on the type of license which is placed on that work. You could, for instance, select CC BY content, which allows you to use the 5 R's of open with that resource. You could filter your results based on subject area. For instance, let's say in education, and then you could filter the results based on the network where the content is hosted, the collections, last updated contents, the language the content has been developed in, institutions, publishers, word count, and also interactive activities which have been used in the resource. Yeah, take your time to look for a content and open educational resource which works for you through any of the resources shared with you, and then put something in the chat about it. Textbook on world music. That sounds like a great resource, Lisa.
I really like the options that it gives for the different formats of downloading. It's very concise. I really like it.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, Digital Literacy Challenges series. That sounds like a great resource. That's great, Janina. Thanks for sharing. Finding some resources through the OER Texas. Wonderful. So yeah, feel free to explore these resources. And if you need more resources, you can scan the QR code on the slide or go to TechSAG at /search OER to find more resources and databases where you can find OER materials. And these are some books from the Open Digital Publishing Catalog or the Shared Network, which we're talking about today. So for instance, Informed Arguments is a book published at Texas A&M University College Station, Howdy or Hello as well, and also Media Communication, Convergence, and Literacy from West Texas A&M University. So at this point, we have only 4 books which are public facing, but we have more books which are used at our campuses, but they're not shared publicly with the world. Only those who have a URL to the book can access them, and we'll talk about this later. And a link to the catalog has been provided in the chat, so feel free to check it out. So the Pressbooks platform is the platform that the shared network is using to publish the content that authors would like to publish as an open educational resource. If you've worked with Pressbooks, you would know that it's a very simple and familiar interface. It's based off of WordPress, if you've worked with WordPress. So it's very intuitive and very familiar, very simple, and you could create professionally designed books, book files without complex software. And you have, as the author, you have unlimited ability to edit, update, and re-export books in a number of formats. And you could also collaborate with other authors or editors. You could add different collaborators on a book and just work seamlessly with each other. Everyone gets access to the content, and they would be able to collaborate and contribute to the project based on the role that they have assumed. And you have a variety of book formats such as PDF, EPUBs, and web books. And you have complete control over your own content, and you can also add multimedia and interactive elements to your book, which is very nice, especially in online educational resources. This is very useful to create engagement. So the question, the real question, the most important question is, why a shared network? So all institutions, all TAMU institutions may have their own publishing platform, but we decided to have a shared network with all the TAMU institutions collaborating and working together. So this is to empower OER authors in the first place. This platform helps faculty, staff, and student authors to work together, collaborate with each other, and share open educational resources across our campuses. And also, it strengthens the connections across campuses through shared knowledge, tools, and publishing support. So we would be collaborating not only on publishing, but also on the tools and logistics of publishing. We'll talk about this in a moment. Also increasing accessibility, and affordability of educational resources across the Texas A&M system. We're mainly here to make sure teaching and learning is a more affordable opportunity for everyone. And not only Texas A&M, but also globally. And finally, supporting smaller campuses. So some campuses which may not have the resources to subscribe to a publishing platform, we're here to support them with the book licenses where they can develop their own content. How is this done? So we collaborate through the Pressbooks platform, which is very easy to work with and very intuitive and also accessible, most importantly. And then we will operate based on a shared licensing model. So institutions which have unlimited access to Pressbooks and have they're independently managing their own platform, but also we can provide institutions which may not have access to Pressbooks with 5 dedicated licenses. So this is very helpful because not all institutions are able to afford to pay for a publishing platform. But everyone gets to have 5 dedicated licenses. We also use single sign-on and LTI to log into the platform seamlessly across institutions, and also LTI helps integration with Canvas or other LMSs that universities may be employing in their teaching and learning. And finally, institutions have the autonomy to manage their own projects while also leveraging system-wide resources and support. All right, thank you very much. I'm passing this on to my friend Tim from Texarkana branch to tell us about their publishing experiences.
Thanks, Ed, and thanks everyone for joining us. Happy OpenEd Week. It's been a busy week here on this campus. As you guys said, my name is Tim Arnold. I'm the Director of University Libraries, but I'm also the co-chair of our Open Education Committee here. My co-chair, Sarah Krishna, who's a mathematics instructor, couldn't join us. She is teaching at this time, so important work going on. So yeah, we've been having a lot of events this week, and this ties in wonderfully. Appreciate the Syed and Jennifer reaching out to us to present on what's happening. And it's sort of in the discussion, we decided to kind of focus on what, kind of what's happening on the campuses, opportunities, challenges, projects, current and future plans. So that's kind of what I'm focusing, kind of what's happening on this campus, how we're tackling open education, and how we're promoting it. So first slide, Syed. Thanks. So opportunities. So as I said, I'm a co-chair of the Open Education Committee here. We've had one for some time, I think since 2020, 2021. So there's been, certainly a lot of interest, and it's an ongoing conversation. I think, as Syed said earlier, having some of these tools available. There's no kind of silver bullet, for open ed. There's lots of things out there, and helping folks kind of navigate that and helping our faculty succeed. And so our committee has been, promoting open education through the last, almost 5 years. So especially with Open Ed Week, it's been a time when we do celebrations, we do events and webinars and things like that. So opportunities, of course, we've got the committee that's active and helping educate and promote our faculty and staff. So I think, over the years, and this year, I think we've had probably more events and more folks coming to our events. So, getting the word out, getting faculty to understand the value of this. And so like this week, we had a session yesterday with our students. It was kind of an open forum. Of course, we had free pizza. But we had a good attendance, and it was really interesting to hear from the perspective of the students what their challenges with getting textbooks. And, a lot of this open education resources can really alleviate these things super fast. So We've just signed up a partnership with OpenStax, and of course at Rice University, and so we're kind of working out that how they can help support our efforts for open education. They have a lot of resources and expertise that can help us out. And of course, this collaboration with the A&M system is really what we need. We had a presentation this week on Monday from the State University of New York system, which is where I worked before I came here. And they have a open education office, kind of a central office, and they talked about how they've leveraged open access across the system, with their the SUNY and the CUNY system, and just helped. And they had an example of one of the community colleges, how they've used it and how they've benefited greatly from it. So yeah, collaboration like this, and then just focusing on student impact is really the key, because a lot of our students, as we know, are struggling with the costs of higher ed, and lowering and having access to textbooks on day one via open education resources is really great. So actually, we've had some a transition recently at the campus level. So fairly new president, and he's a supporter of open education resources. Has used it tremendously in his previous role when he was doing more teaching. And we now report to the assistant provost. They are a big supporter of open education resources. So there's definitely some momentum going on this campus, which is great. And the other one of the things that our committee has been looking at is academe course share. And I'm not sure if every campus is part of this, but this is a way of so if there's a course that is not offered on your campus and somebody needs to take a course, they can take it in this academe. And so if we're trying to promote OER within those courses, it sort of opens up a whole another layer of students who could be, could help your course make. So yeah, lots of opportunities out there for promoting and keeping the momentum going. So of course, there are challenges, and that's one of the things that our committee is focused on, trying to look at those challenges and make progress. Funding for professional development that's specifically open education focused has been a challenge. Obviously most people have their discipline that they want to focus on, and there's limited funds. So we're trying to establish some funds to help folks go to, say, conferences or training opportunities and things. Getting open education achievements into the tenure promotion and evaluation to incentivize faculty. That's certainly a challenge, and we've been trying to have those conversations with deans and making sure that these things are valued. Just kind of establishing the support network on campus, as well as not just on campus, but of course off campus too. Whether it's instructional designers, librarians, our IT folks, just getting that sort of understood and shared so that our faculty know that there's help. I mean, we understand, creating OpenEd is publishing, and it's not something that people do on their own, or rarely do on their own. There's always a network of folks that can help. And so yeah, that's another challenge. And then, we've just been, trying to figure out who's using OER on campus and doing some surveying and things like that, and just getting a benchmark of where we are and hoping to grow that. The other, I would say, some, kind of a challenge is we've just rolled out what's called the Eagle Book Bundle, so inclusive access for students. And one of our, as I said, we had a session with students yesterday, and just helping students kind of navigate those things. I mean, the whole idea of these things is to have your books and resources available on day one, and it sounds great in theory, but sometimes it doesn't work very well. And open access, I think, kind of fixes that in a sense. If you're using an OER for your course, it's there, it's built into your LMS, and you're ready to go on day one as promised. So next slide, please, Sam. So yeah, projects and things that we're focusing on. Of course, Open Education Week, as I mentioned, we every year try to focus on that, have a whole bunch of events and just helping get the word out, helping do webinars and things like this. This is promoting on our campus today, and I think we've got some folks joining us today from A&M Texarkana. So one thing we're also focusing on is celebration of kind of OER champions. We have like Sarah, my co-chair, is someone who uses OER pretty exclusively in our mathematics instruction. Discovering who those folks are and then celebrating. And then we're doing that in collaboration with our campus faculty professional development group, which is called OTAFA, Office of Teaching and Faculty Advancement. Members of their committee are on our Open Education Committee, and they have they have an event tomorrow going on where they're kind of highlighting some of these OER champions, and then they have a kind of a celebration at the end of the year. And this year they're going to be doing that again, highlighting folks that are using OER. So, excuse me. Current future plans. We are kind of focusing on the core curriculum. That appears to be a really good way to try to expand this. Certainly from our administration side, they would like to expand more access to OER in the curriculum, the core curriculum. Like I said, increased support for faculty adopters and creators, whether that's through the TMP process or through grant opportunities. I know we put in an application for the coordinating board, some grant money to help convert. I think we put in for some lower level English classes. Just trying to incentivize it, with our faculty, because we know, this is work, this is time and effort that faculty need to do. And then, just kind of clarifying again the messaging to students, making sure that they understand what courses are OER, what low cost, no cost, as opposed to what courses they'll need to buy resources for. So, lots going on here at Texas A&M Texarkana. As I said, this is trying to tackle the open education is really, there's not a simple solution to it. There's lots of ways to handle it, and the more we collaborate and the more we network, and this new shared network is going to be super helpful, because if we discover that we've got faculty that are ready to create something or edit something and need a platform to do that, the Pressbooks platform would be ideal for that. So I appreciate A&M College Station reaching out and having these licenses for us. So with that, I think we're turning it over to Sarah at East Texas A&M. So we're actually, A&M Texarkana is the original East Texas State University. So, but I'm turning it over to East Texas A&M University. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. So I'm Sarah Northam, and I am the Director of Research and Instruction at East Texas A&M University. If you're not familiar with that system school, it's because we are formerly Texas A&M University Commerce. We changed our name in November, so right now we're having lots of fun making sure all of our websites are updated and that kind of stuff. So Syed, next slide, please. So I have been involved with OER probably since around 2015. And for a long time, I'm sure several of you might have felt this way if you do OER on your campus. I felt like the sole person doing OER on my campus. But I'm really excited because now it seems like we've really got some momentum on campus and we're seeing lots of opportunities. Our provost academic affairs recently established an OER initiative and has appointed people to the initiative. And right now, the primary goal is to increase awareness, to let people know what OER is, try to encourage its use, try to get adoption, things like that. And so we've really got support from campus, but also it seems like system is doing a lot right now to help influence kind of like the use or consideration of OER. I'm really excited about Texas A&M's OpenEd office and the shared platform. I think that's going to really offer a lot of opportunities for maybe schools that maybe couldn't get a full subscription to Pressbooks. You know, I love the idea that we really seem to be collaborating across campuses. Um, for a while, we've had a really strong utilization of OER in our competency education-based program. So if you're not familiar with what those are, we have quite a few competency-based education degrees. And they, you might have heard the $10,000 degree at one point. That was how they were being referred to several years ago in like the Texas legislative sessions. But the idea behind them is to give people who are in the workforce an opportunity to pursue a degree. The courses are accelerated. And for a long time, they were using inclusive access. And about 4 years ago, they transitioned almost everything to OER. And so that's kind of how our momentum originally got started. But now we're pulling in groups like student government. We have a really strong student advocacy and support office. Hopefully we can bring in faculty senate representation. So from the perspective of someone who feels like they've been trying to roll that rock up a hill for a long time, it really feels like we're getting somewhere now. And I am just so excited. But as Tim has noted, and as Syed has probably found, there's always challenges with OER. Of course, there's the standard people ask about quality and try to compare it to traditional textbook publishing. There's the idea of, well, how do we identify and measure the use of OER on our campuses? I was fortunate enough to go through the OER librarian certificate program through the Open Education Network, and they had some really good ideas for metrics on how to use or how to measure OER, how to show a cost savings to students. I don't know what it's like on your campuses, but of course, you know, state legislation several years ago passed the course marking law. And so we do have course marking on our campus, but I have noticed several times that there is a lot of confusion between what is inclusive access and what is open educational resources. So trying to make sure that not only our faculty understand that, but also our departmental administration assistants, because they're usually the ones that set up the course marking on our campus. So you're trying to kind of touch two different user groups, so to speak. But then, of course, there's the idea of faculty workload. One of the things that we've heard frequently is that faculty already have a heavy workload. They're using the materials that they're using because, you know, they're comfortable. They have been using these materials and they've been using the slides and the lectures for a long time. And so there's a comfort level in that. And so trying to show them that, yes, this could be this could involve work, but in the long term, it's going to benefit our students, which could then benefit our enrollment, which could then benefit our student retention, which could then benefit our student graduation rates. And so that's kind of how you really have to start framing some of these conversations, because at the end of the day, and I talk about incentivizing the use of OER in a minute, I really don't like the terms incentivizing, and I really don't like to see public education treated as like a business, but in some cases that is how we have to look at it. How are we going to attract students? How are we going to keep students? But also those students that might not have access to as many benefits as other students. They can't go out and buy their textbooks immediately. How can we make sure that all of those students are being served in the same way? So when you're talking about the use of incentivizing OER, things like, okay, how can we make this a benefit for faculty? How can we make this something that faculty want to do, even if there is that idea of workload and buy-in. So Tim mentioned things like incentivizing grants. A lot of schools are doing mini grants where it's like, hey, if you adopt an OER for 2 semesters, we'll give you a mini grant, test it out, see if you like it. Some schools are doing adoption or creation grants. There's been several schools that are now looking at adding it to tenure and promotion. And then, of course, there's the possibilities of collaborating for other grants. And so that can be a challenge, is like, how do we do that? And I just kind of threw in challenges and future ideas in there at the same time. And then, of course, finding and evaluating OER, that idea of quality. So Syed, next slide, please. So right now, one of our big projects, like I said, is trying to restart this idea of getting people to realize what it is. How can we use it? And so right now we're starting kind of small, and we're kicking off a workshop series on April 3rd with OER 101. And it's kind of funny, I think Syed and Tim and I all have other OER events going on today. So when I'm done with this meeting, I'm going to a passive program in our student center where we're going to try and introduce OER to our students. But also currently, and in the future, I've mentioned like maybe collaborating with other schools across the system for a grant on maybe core curriculum materials. We are looking at converting all of our dual credit courses to OER, because there's actually several pieces of legislation from the state of Texas that either explicitly mentions OER use or implicitly mentions OER use. And one of those bills actually encourages the conversion of dual credit courses to OER materials to save, high school students money. And then hopefully in the future, maybe transitioning more of our core curriculum classes over to OER, because I think that could be a really easily targeted area, because there's more OER for what we consider core curriculum than probably any other area. OER is growing. We're starting to see more variety in the types of OER that is out there, and the types of subject materials that are out there. But there's actually a really strong network right now across OER platforms related to core curriculum. And what's lovely about Texas is we have the Common Core. So this makes a really good area to do like collaboration with other institutions, which could potentially lead to grants. So it's kind of this lovely little ecosystem that I really hope that we get to see grow. Syed, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah and Tim. Yeah, it sounds exciting what you folks are doing at your institutions. All right, and so to focus on the state of OER publishing at Texas A&M College Station. So at this point, so this is OpenEd Week. We have a host of activities at this point. We had a session. We have planned 3 lunch and learn sessions this week. We had one on right now. Actually, Beth and Jen, my colleagues, are conducting a workshop on copyright licenses and open licenses in general. We had one on the introduction to our unit, making sure we can connect with faculty, authors, students, and staff, telling them about the sorts of projects we're involved in and what types of supports we provide to faculty, staff, and student authors in terms of publishing and other ways of creating and developing and using open educational resources. And this Friday, we will also have one on creating a Pressbooks book. It's called Building a Book. So, and it's another lunch and learn. And tomorrow, actually, we have an online presentation on open pedagogy, which I will provide a link to it later during this presentation. So we have a host of activities and a host of workshops, trainings, info sessions to talk about OER at our campus, which are very exciting. I mean, for us also to engage in this work. So as for publishing, right now, so we created a set of guidelines to streamline the process, the publishing process, to support authors and also ensure consistency. We received feedback from different stakeholders, our faculty, also our Open Educational Resource Committee here at Texas A&M College Station. And that document is now with the General Counsel. Hopefully when it's approved, we will be able to post it to the ODP, Open Digital Publishing Platform. It had that document would have some framing and some guidelines on how to progress with a project, how to develop the project, how to receive support, and many other things. So the other thing we're currently very focused on is to enhance the accessibility of our open educational resources. As I shared before, we have many open educational resources, lab manuals, textbooks, which are currently on our platform, but they are not publicly shared with the world. So we're making sure that those resources are accessible and they pass accessibility checks in light of the accessibility guidelines, which go into effect April next year. Also, we're working on expanding workshops and trainings. We have a series of workshops on Pressbooks and using Pressbooks. It's called Pressbooks Picks. So we're hoping to expand those workshops, those sessions, and cover other areas within using the Pressbooks platform. We also support other publishing platforms such as Manifold and LibreText, but this is specific work. I mean, this series of workshops focuses on Pressbooks at this point. The other interesting and exciting thing we're focusing on right now is supporting widespread adoption and use. So with migration to the shared network, we now have an unlimited license, which we can share with our faculty members or staff and the student authors. So whoever wants to basically publish their resources, we're happy to support them, because right now we have an unlimited license to support widespread adoption and use. And also, we're hoping to improve our catalog visibility. As I said, we have about 26 published but not publicly available books in our catalog, but only 2 of them are featured in the shared networks catalog at this point. We're hoping to engage our authors and try to mitigate the sorts of challenges and concerns they might have with their book, such as copyright issues or accessibility issues, so that we can just feature those content materials into our shared catalog so that they can be broadly used through the system and also globally. Yes, that's Texas A&M College Station in a nutshell. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, feel free to at this point.
So there's a question that just popped up.
Yeah.
Yes.
About OER materials. So.
Hey,
I
yes,
can take a stab at part of that question, Syed, if you want to do the top part.
Yeah, I'm just reading the question now. Thank you for the question.
Must be in the discussion.
Well, so this is not something that I'm aware of. Thanks for the question, Randall. Yes, I mean, I'm not sure if there is a repository for a specific to common numbered courses at this point. Okay.
The closest thing, Syed, would probably be OER Techs, but they align it with the academic course manual, and they also align it with the there's another course manual, but they don't necessarily align it via common course numbers. So and not everybody actually, when they put something in OER Text, attaches how it aligns with Common Core. So I think that would be a wonderful idea. I would love to see that. Now, one of the things that you can do with OER Text that if we wanted to, this might be something we could look at maybe as a system if we get a system group going. You can create hubs in OER Text, and so we could kind of do our own kind of thing probably, but that would be a lot of work. And then I'm not sure, Randall, if you're referring to grant stipend is implemented by other institutions in the system, or if you're referring to like broadly, but there's quite a lot of schools across the United States that have implemented in-house grants for various things. And some of those grants range from like $500 for adopting OER for courses for a few semesters to I've seen some schools award $5,000 to develop new OER for course use. I have not seen any for something like peer reviewing OER. I would love to see something like that because that could kind of help contribute to the idea of the quality issue that people talk about a lot. I have found, and research has found, that there's really no applicable difference between textbooks that are traditionally published and go to a traditional editing process versus OpenEd textbooks that might have been published by a library, etc. So that I think could be really cool if that would be something that could be put in place as possibly part of the tenure and promotion, like part of the peer review process. And then Lisa also has a question, Syed. And is anyone talking about system grants to universities to support faculty in OER adoption creation?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Lisa. Well, this is another question that I don't have an answer to at this point, but I could look into it, Lisa, for sure.
Yeah, I have a question.
I feel I don't want to.
Yeah.
At one point we had, and several of the people that I see in chat, I know were part of this group. There was a Katie task force, and that was one of the things we had kind of talked generically about in that task force, but there's never been anything official as far as I know about collaborative grants.
I know there are some grants through the provost's office, which faculty could apply to. But yes, I mean, I don't know anything about the broader grant programs. But I'm happy to look into, and I'm fairly new here, by the way. I've been here only 3 months for now, but I'm learning a lot as I go. But I'm happy to work with you and find the answers to the questions.
Yeah, I feel bad, Syed, because I keep going, I can answer that question.
Please do, Sarah. This is great. I'm happy we have you here.
I just saw another one a minute ago. Kimberly, could you kind of clarify your question? Oh, end user for the professor. Teaching textbooks and teaching materials how to access. Do you mean for stuff that they've created or for something different? I want to make sure that I'm answering your question correctly, or one of us is answering your question correctly.
Well, here's what I'll share, and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Sarah, for chiming in. I'm working with a school and a college where they want to adopt the textbooks but they also need, Sarah, those teaching materials. So they need like test banks and they need PowerPoints and they need everything that would go with the textbook that they can teach the class. How does that work, Sarah?
Kimberly, that's actually a really good question. Syed and Tim, if you're okay, I can take this. That is probably one of the bigger discussions surrounding OER. Usually when they develop a textbook, say if you have a group of faculty that develop a textbook in an institution, they don't develop ancillary materials, which is that supplemental stuff that you're talking about. Sometimes they might put quizzes within the book or something like that, but a lot of times the usage and creating materials from that really comes from the professors themselves. Now, the exception to that is something like OpenStax. And Tim's course is in an OpenStax partnership. We were in one last year. OpenStax, they, in the development of the books that they publish, they actually take into consideration those ancillary materials. So OpenStax offers both a student account that students can register for and a faculty account that faculty can register for. And within that faculty account, some of those books do have things like ancillary materials, like the PowerPoint lectures, the test banks, etc. So a lot of times that's going to be what you find, Kimberly. Now, the nice thing about OpenStax is if you're focusing on core curriculum, OpenStax is primarily core curriculum. They've got a U.S. history, the 218, or 1865, and then from 1865, they've got a global history. They've got a couple of business fundamentals. I believe there is a speech book. There's a writing handbook. So they do have a lot of that core curriculum material. It's the upper level classes where you're going to have the greatest difficulty, Kimberly. Does that help or answer your question?
Sarah, because that's what's happening. That's where they got the greatest difficulty. These are the junior classes, the senior classes, or even graduate level classes. And they love the fact that the students get to have the book for free through OER. But the challenge, Sarah, is that the professors don't know how to teach from the book and wanting those ancillary materials. Thank you, Sarah. That was good.
Yeah, and that could be honestly where something like an incentivization grant could be beneficial, because the faculty then can get a stipend to develop those materials, and so hopefully that would alleviate some of the workload pressure.
Thank you.
Jennifer, if I could just chime in. Yeah, we had OpenStax present to us yesterday, and Anthony there gave us some pretty good demo of some of their ancillary materials. They do have quite the extensive collection of things, and even a new product where they're talking about very highly customization with their textbooks and what areas you can highlight and have students interact with. So there's good stuff happening.
Darlene has a question about generative AI. Would Gen AI help with supplemental course materials? Is Gen AI content considered public domain? I'm going to let the gentleman see if they have a response before I chime in. I don't want to.
Sure. Sounds good. I'm currently taking Copyright X, and we have talked about it in our class a little bit. And because of AI, so copyright is usually goes to living authors or developers or creators. AI, which is inanimate, is not living, so can't be holding the copyright to a resource. So at this point, I imagine, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, that Gen AI developed content is considered public domain.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. With some recent decisions that anything that's created by AI, and there's a lot of potential there for the creation of open education resources. Is if you've got an idea and you need assistance, using AI is a great way to make it happen faster, put it together, and then it automatically becomes copyright free essentially.
Well, and I'm going to be the Debbie Downer. So the thing with generative AI is that most of it is created from its base. So what is put into Gen AI then becomes its training materials, right? So when you are ingesting something into an AI tool like Chat GPT or something, you are basically giving it permission to then ingest it into its learning server. With something like a OER that's got a CC BY license or something like that, it's not a big deal. You could put it in there, it's got that CC license, and have it create quizzes, I'm sure. But the issue could be if there's copyrighted material that's been put into generative AI. And I'm afraid we do have somebody here in my system or my school who's much more informed on Gen AI, that they could be giving a whole lecture on this whole topic. But the other thing to think about when it comes to AI, and this probably wouldn't happen in terms of OER, is if you put in any student data. So you would want to be, careful about that. So I like generative AI, but that's one of those questions that, you probably would want to think about. But let me go back and say, yes, I think it would be cool to create materials from OER stuff, but then be careful about putting copyrighted stuff in it, because there's multiple cases right now moving through the courts related to copyright and generative AI. I hope that wasn't confusing. I apologize. Janina, that's a good question. And I think at one point they were saying that AI content generated by the platform was owned by the platform. But there could have been some new decisions lately that has changed that. But I know that there was I think an art copyright case or something like that where a generative AI item was produced, and it was decided that since there was not a person, the corporation, or that the Gen AI corporation would own would belong to them. And I could be wrong about that. It's been a while since I read it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's an evolving conversation at this point. Yeah, thank you. So I think we only have about 3 minutes to go. So I just quickly review the resources that we would like to share with you folks. So feel free to check out Texas A&M University System Open and Digital Publishing Platform. And if you have ideas for publishing a book, make sure to reach out to your library person. And you can also check out the list of contacts through the ODP through the About page. Feel free to reach out to your library person, your library liaison, and we'll be in touch. We would be giving you a license to develop your content, or we'll collaborate with you in terms of support and services. So also, as Janina shared in the chat, so there's a link to our TAMU Open Education Week events. Tomorrow we have a guest speech about open pedagogy. So feel free to join us. It's at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Also, some Pressbooks resources for you folks to be familiar with Pressbooks if you need more information, and Pressbooks user guide as well. Yeah, thank you so much for being with us today.
I got a question real quick. Those beautiful links, can you put them in chat, or are we going to get this PowerPoint?
Yes, that's a great question. We're going to share the PowerPoint with everyone. We did at the beginning of this presentation, but let's put the link in the chat one more time for those who joined in later. Let me find the link.
Oh, yeah, I found them already. Thank you.
Sounds great.
I see it all.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to any one of us folks. And thanks for spending your lunchtime with us today. and happy Open Education Week.
And thank y'all so much for presenting.